in high definition. Central Coast News right now.
It engulfed our house, and then we were able to get out before it exploded.
A propane tank exploded in Boulder Creek this morning, shaking homes, igniting a brush fire, and sending one man to the hospital. Fire crews rushed to the scene to make sure that fire did not spread. Good evening, I'm Mark Cota-Robles.
And I'm Jasmine Veal. The fire was contained pretty quickly, but neighbors won't soon forget what happened. Central Coast News reporter Jake Reiner just got back from the scene, joining us from the newsroom. And Jake, we saw your eye coverage earlier today that we posted online, but what was that scene like firsthand after this explosion?
Jazz, when I got on scene, there were fire trucks everywhere and the smell of propane was overwhelming. They were able to put out the fire pretty quickly today, but the really amazing thing was how a father's quick thinking saved lives moments before the explosion. The aftermath of a ticking time bomb with very little warning.
It was a giant rushing sound.
The sound Thomas Brown heard was a thick cloud of propane gas headed straight for his Boulder Creek house.
It engulfed our house.
With his daughter fast asleep, he had to act fast.
I got her out of bed and to a safe distance because I could tell it would explode any minute.
After the pair got a safe distance away, boom.
Like a bomb going off.
Fire crews said this propane company was transferring the gas from this tank to this one, but a faulty valve led to the leak. The gas then ignited when it reached this exterior heater. That's when Thomas and his daughter saw the fire. Thomas didn't wait long to take matters into his own hands, using his own garden hose to put out the fire. He put out the flames before fire crews arrived. He says he didn't have time to panic.
I just deal with things that way.
The charred porch is a reminder of just how close Thomas came to losing his life. He escaped the explosion without a scrape. There was one injury to report. One of the propane company's workers was taken to a San Jose hospital where he's expected to recover. Coming up at 6, firefighters say they got lucky this time. How the explosion could have been so much worse. In the newsroom, I'm Jake Reiner, your Central Coast News.
Jake, thanks for that. Fresh off the heels of a presidential visit to drought-stricken California, Governor Jerry Brown and legislative leaders have announced a proposal. They want to spend $680 million to alleviate the impacts of our incredibly dry year. John K. Brent live in our Digital Operations Center with the latest on the plan. John?
Yeah, Mark, I've been following this story on the feeds all day today, and the governor, state leader Darrell Steinberg, and Assembly Speaker John Perez announced, while we all need to conserve water, there needs to be additional emergency response as well. Now, there had been a plan in the works in the Senate that would have acted quickly to get some water-saving projects on the books, but today the governor said the state will provide immediate funding for drinking water, food, housing, and assistance for water-conserving technologies. Now, California's leaders met at the governor's office for emergency services in Sacramento area to make the announcement. There was definitely a sense of urgency in responding to the drought. This state legislation will complement federal drought assistance legislation that has been introduced by Senators Feinstein and Boxer and congressional members Costa, Cardenas, and Farr, and those were discussed last week in the Central Valley with presidential visits. So we want to show you the picture of what this new emergency spending proposal looks like. The total package is over $680 million. $549 million goes to local governments to support drought alleviation projects. $50 million supports efforts to provide food and shelter for those impacted by drought-related layoffs. $40 million for water efficiency projects that are designed to save water, and another $80 million will go for stormwater capture construction. Add this to federal aid and current water conservation efforts in the state, and the Brown administration believes its coordinated response will be timely and comprehensive. Now all we need is a little more rain. Jazz, back to you.
And Norm's saying about 10 more days until that hits. All right, thanks, John. And on that note, today, state leaders will hold the first in a series of informational sessions on drought resources for farmers and ranchers. Agriculture groups will be providing information on state and federal government programs as well as farm worker assistance programs. So if you'd like to attend tonight's session, is going to be at the Monterey County Ag Center there on Abbott Street in Salinas. The session runs from 6 to 8 o'clock.
Central Coast News reporter Ricardo Navarro joining me now here on the desk. And we have reported here at Central Coast News how hard this drought has been for some local growers, but local wineries in our area actually are in good shape.
That's because they are using techniques that allow them to use less water. It's called cover cropping. The practice retains water when the vines are dormant, so growers can irrigate less even in a drought.
You may not see water falling from the sky at De Tierra Vineyards, but these vines are getting water.
We farm with a lot of cover crop, which allows the soil to retain a lot of any of the precipitation that's in the air, even if it's not actually raining. So we're retaining a lot of that water, and it allows us to not have to irrigate as often.
De Tierra Vineyards General Manager Anna Russell said the vines still need water during their dormant season, so techniques like cover cropping year-round helps weather the droughts.
A lot of people focus on the water usage during the actual bud break and producing the grapes because, the grapes swell as you irrigate more, and it's just a very direct correlation. But both of them have focused on the fact that you're preparing the vine.
More and more vineyards are taking this approach, which helps the vine grow deeper roots in the ground to find water farther down.
When you have enough moisture in the air, as we do with the coastal influence, you're able to use those sort of techniques, and they're more effective as well.
Russell said keeping an eye on water usage now can prevent big problems when the vines need the water most.
So growers say they've had 2 straight years of large harvests, and there still is hope for this year. Thanks to techniques like cover cropping, many hope they can weather the drought and have another profitable year.
Yeah, watching the story there makes you think, we have our agriculture, we have our vineyards. You wonder if the water is ever going to be just right for everyone to be happy. But, something to address. We keep talking about it. Red or white for you?
Red, always
All right,
red.
Me too. That's a good thing to agree on. Ricardo, thanks.
Oh, his answer was so quick on that one. All right, a continuing water emergency in San Benito County. The county's leaders talked about making an emergency declaration just last night. But first and foremost, the water district is hoping the public conserves by 20%. Officials say the ag industry supply is dwindling. It's running critically low. Residents in the area currently use about 160 gallons a day. The water district wants to reduce that to 129 gallons a day by 2020.
Santa Cruz police are still looking for an armed felon who ditched his car, hopped fences, and sparked a neighborhood lockdown. Police say 24-year-old Paul Garcia, seen here, is a known drug dealer. Officers were following his white Nissan Maxima yesterday afternoon when they say Garcia jumped out and took off running through a Seabright neighborhood. That sparked a shelter-in-place for a 1 square block area. The neighborhood was closed for 2 hours as authorities searched for him. Garcia was not found. A passenger in his car also ran off and wasn't found either. This man is now behind bars. Police say he raped a woman last Thursday in Marina. The victim flagged down a police officer on Owen Avenue around 12:30 in the morning. Alexander Oleshi is facing charges of rape, sodomy, false imprisonment, and battery.
Well, some new information on the battle between California cities and the state agency that provides pensions to state employees. CalPERS has voted to start phasing in higher rates to account for people living longer. So the state's payments will go up starting this summer. Rates paid by cities, counties, and schools won't go up until 2016. It means less money for agencies right now, but Governor Brown says the move will save taxpayers in the long run. He also said the move strengthened the pension system, which has been a point of contention in many cities, like in Pacific Grove, where city leaders there have challenged CalPERS for years. They say the state increased the amount that the city is supposed to pay toward its pensions, so much so that it cannot afford the bill. The city cut pension payments for its police officers in 2010, prompting the union representing them to file suit. The city also hired an attorney just last year to look into this issue. Well, neighborhood watch groups are working to keep our streets safer, and now they want to give other people a chance to team up and do the same. A bit of information for you tonight as experts will host an informational meeting on how to form an effective neighborhood watch. The 1-hour presentation will include how to start and maintain a watch group. Guest speakers include members of the Salinas Police Department and other watch groups. So this meeting begins 6:30 at Salinas City Hall.
And now to Seaside, the police department may soon get new guns, ammunition, and badges. City leaders are expected to take up the proposal tomorrow. They'll be asked to set aside $50,000 to buy the new equipment. The new handguns would replace the .40 caliber Glock semi-automatics that officers have been using for the past 12 years. Tonight in Pacific Grove, the City Council is slated to move forward in contracting new management for its golf course. A public-private partnership is expected to save taxpayers money. The City Council wants to ensure employees have meaningful employment paths or a fair severance before the transition.
All right, applying for college these days is very tough, and the pressures are tremendous, from getting accepted to figuring out even how to pay for college. But undocumented students face these challenges and more. Central Coast News reporter Michelle Polito tells us about a deadline approaching to help them apply for state aid.
It has instructions step by step. It just gets a little confusing.
That's why for a second year in a row, this financial aid counselor, Adriana Pacheco, has been helping undocumented students like those from Cal State University Monterey Bay fill out applications for California state aid.
It's been a learning process, and some students don't even know they qualify. They're under the assumption that they don't.
That's the case for some undocumented students who think their legal status automatically disqualifies them from getting state financial help. But that changed 2 years ago.
California government has decided that we will give them the opportunity to apply for California state aid. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll qualify. It just means they can apply.
There are certain conditions undocumented students must meet before they can fill out this application, like graduating from a California high school they've attended for at least 3 years. Students have until March 2nd to get their application submitted. The amount of the state grants vary, but can go up to $5,000.
The funds are based on the California state budget, so definitely funds are very limited. Most students who fill out their California DREAM Act application or even their FAFSA after March 2nd won't be eligible for California aid because schools simply run out of the money.
Michelle Polito, your Central Coast News.
So counselors will be at the UFW offices there on Pajaro Street in Salinas from 6 to 8 o'clock tonight to help with those applying for college aid, federal and state to be exact. So if you do want to go, bring along social security numbers and that tax information for both the student and parent for 2013. Again, all of this information is on our website.
Coming up here on Central Coast News, a sister gives up her spot in the Olympic Games so her twin can compete.
Also, much more serious news here as protests in Ukraine reach a boiling point as both sides refuse to back down.
This is Central Coast News, now in high definition.